All right, we're here at the end of the session, and I'm here with my buddy. This is Rocky, and this is Hunter, and this is their roadmap to success. We didn't really work with Hunter very much. I actually worked with him a lot at the beginning of the session by not petting him. So one of the things I will start off by talking about him. So I'd like the guardians to have guests come over and practice having guests come over. But when the guests come over, they should ignore Hunter. Don't talk to him. Don't try to look at him. Don't try to pet him. The more we do that, the more the dog gets confused and thinking, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to slide one over on me, or what's going on? We want the dog to kind of be like, what are you all about? If the dog comes to me, then I'm in the leadership position. If I go to the dog, then the dog's in the leadership position. And insecure dogs think that you're going to do something wrong. So we have to build up trust in the dog. And a great way to do that is by basically just having guests come over and practice, not petting him, not doing anything. Now, we can take some treats out, and we can, yeah, he's trying to get that, there we go, come. He's trying to get that wrapper that's in there. But basically, if we have guests that come over and practice ignoring him and not petting him and not trying to talk to him and not trying to engage, but that's what guests do. I want to look like a good guest. I want your dogs to like me, so I'm going to pet him. Well, if the dog hasn't made up its mind about you, the more you pet it, the more it's going to think, you're trying to do something I'm not comfortable with you doing. Also, anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're specifically reinforcing. If you have a fearful dog and you pet it, you'll make it more fearful. Nervous dog, more nervous, excited dog, and so on and so forth. So one of the best things we could do is have guests come over. Don't even look at Hunter, just wait. And now what they can do is take a treat out. And if Hunter is 5 feet away from me, maybe I show him that I have the treat and toss it 2 feet away from me. So we want the dog to practice approaching the person, getting the treat, and then walking away on their own volition. And then as we're doing this, you might have to go 80% of the way towards Hunter before he'll come and take the treat. We had to do that a little bit at the beginning. But as you do it, you could get him going a little bit closer. Then eventually when he's comfortable enough, if he's sitting next to you, the guests, we'd like to have them holding their treat in the palm of their hand and sideways. This is more approachable to a dog sideways than front facing is confrontational. So we'd like the dog to kind of come up and approach, and I hold the treat. I'm not even looking at it. I'm going to let him lick it off, and I'm going to hold my hand still after he licks up the treat. Hunter kept on coming back and getting a second and third lick at my hand. They meet by scent, and that gives them an opportunity to meet me by scent. And again, I'm not making it pressure-filled by trying to pet him or talk to him or rush towards him. All those things kind of will set him off. And like I said, it could actually reinforce the wrong thing. So by giving Hunter more space and helping him practice, eventually he gets to the point where he's like this, where I can reach over and pet him a little bit. And he's okay with me doing that. Is he in the shot or is he out of the shot? That's okay, you don't have to, that's fine. He's a little guy. But he's awfully cute, and he's got a great overbite. That's awfully cute. But you see, now he's relaxed because I spent 2 hours of not trying to reach for him. And if you reach for him and he does like that, he turns his head to the side, that's a cutoff signal. He's saying, I'm not comfortable with you touching me. And what do? We go ahead and touch him anyways. Well, if I go to grab a girl's hand I'm on a date with and she pulls her hand back, she's telling me I'm not comfortable enough to hold hands with you. Unfortunately, I get that a lot. But we want the dog to feel comfortable and trust that the human's not going to grab me, not going to do anything that I'm not ready for. Okay, now the dog that we primarily were called in to work with is this guy. And primarily the issue that they wanted to work on was chasing cars. So in the video above, we went over behavior adjustment training, or BAT, which is a little redundant because it's behavior adjustment training, so saying BAT training, saying training twice. But basically what we did is we created a stage scenario where we were able to help the dog practice a different behavior. In this case, sniffing the ground and licking up the shredded cheese that was sprinkled amongst the grass. So don't use treats for this. We want to use, I actually prefer even the finely shredded cheese because it's harder for them to work at. Now when we're doing this, I'm gonna kind of let it go with what's in the video. So follow the instructions there, but the summation of what I went over at the end is you want to practice first in the cul-de-sac, and the guardians have found the farther away from you get from the house, the more reactive the dog gets. So find a street that's going to have some traffic, but not super fast traffic, maybe in your neighborhood. And a great time to practice would maybe be around 5:15 to 5:30, starting, and do it for about 10 or 15 minutes, because now we're going to have people coming home from work. And try to find an area where people are going to be driving down the streets at 15, 20 miles an hour. Now, you might want to find a place where, ask one of your neighbors, hey, would you mind if we're in your yard? We want to teach the dog not to chase cars. I might need to move a little bit further away from the street so that the neighbor is okay with that. And then you can sprinkle the cheese as you need to. But the idea is to gradually get him closer and closer to the street where the cars are moving by slowly. And once you get to the point, and go at his pace, not at your pace. Once you get to that, then you want to find a street where cars are driving by a little bit faster. And again, keep on finding a location where there's a field or something where he can be far enough away to test, can the dog sit and will it take a treat? If it won't do those two things, then you're too close to the cars. And the whole point of bat training is the dog has to be completely calm throughout. Once they're what we call above threshold, they're hysterical, they're not going to learn anything. So if your dog starts to get to the point where they don't want to sit, don't want to take the treat, come. That's passive training. See if you give me an SIT. Nope. But what we want to do is help the dog practice it being relaxed. So if you see him breathing heavy, staring too much, his tail going straight up, his ears getting stiff, his body getting stiff, he's telling you he's getting close to his breaking point. So get him out of there before he actually does react. Now, we spent a lot of time in the first part of the session going over rules and structure. The Guardians actually have some structure in place. I suggested a couple of the rules, like ask him to sit before we let him out the door, keep on doubling the length of time for that. He likes to sit up here. I'm kind of on two levels. I'm like, part of it's cool, but it does have a little bit of height. And for him being a puppy, the more structure we provide and help him see and reinforce the humans are leaders, will help mitigate some of his herding tendencies. So the Guardian's already doing a good job of feeding before she eats, eating before she feeds him. She feeds him in here, which is fine. But you might want to actually try feeding them both out and letting Hunter eat first because he's the older dog, and making Rocky sit and wait while there's food in his bowl while he watches Hunter eat. That's a great opportunity to practice some self-restraint. Dogs are very instinctive creatures. So I see a car going, I just chase it. Well, if we help him practice waiting before we exit the kennel, which is one of the exercises that I went over with the Guardians, waiting before you have permission to eat food. And there's nothing but blocking him. When we were doing the kennel exercise, the door was wide open. I was several feet away, and he wasn't allowed to come out because he's restraining himself. And that develops great self-control. When you're playing fetch, which he loves to do, incorporate a little bit of structure there. When he brings you the ball, make him drop it. And once he drops it, then pick it up and throw it. And when he consistently drops it, if he already does that, Guardian's nodding her head. So then basically just when he brings it to you, pick it up, sit. And only when he sits do I throw it. And as soon as he sits, throw it. And after a while, he'll come and sit, and then wait, and pick it up, and put it down, pick it up, and without actually throwing it. And then release, or whatever your word is when you throw it. So he has to wait for the release word to go outside. One of the things I do for the door is first I make them sit before they can go out the door. Then eventually I program that they have to wait, which the Guardian is kind of already at that one. So the more we can help him practice that in different scenarios, the better. I also showed the Guardian how to use the martingale collar and how to do what I call a structured walk. If you forget how to do that, message me. I have videos I can share with you that go over how to do that. We also went over the importance of rewarding desired actions and behaviors. I call that passive training. So every time the dog comes over, pet him and say, come. Every time he sits, pet him and say, sit. Every time he lays down, pet him and say, down. Every time he goes in his kennel, come up with a word for kennel. When he takes his first bite of food, say the word burrito, or whatever the word is that you want to mean that particular food. When he hears burrito, there's food in his mouth. When Hunter hears burrito, there's no food in Hunter's mouth. So that way makes it not a command word for Hunter. I'd also like the Guardians to get in a habit of making him earn affection. Now, he's not a really pawing at. A lot of dogs paw for attention, and usually when they don't do that, I ask the Guardians, well, would it be fair to say that he gets petted so much he doesn't have to ask for it? And they're like, no. And sometimes just like us, or just some people are more clingy, other people are more aloof and independent, and that might be him. But if we still ask him to sit, 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 and then pet him and say just the word sit, don't say a lot of other words, now we can actually help him feel better about getting that attention because he earned it. It also is reinforcing that I'm the leader and he's the follower, and it helps him practice following instructions. These are all great exercises for him to participate in. Let me see. I went through the 4 escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted behaviors. The Guardian took good notes, so she probably has that. Come. So that's an example of passive training. Might want to come up with some watchwords. I usually say paycheck. If I'm in the room petting Rocky and the Guardian comes in and sees that he's standing, she might say, oh, that's him. She might say paycheck. And then I would stop petting him. Paycheck means I think you may have forgotten to pet with a purpose. Yes, he really wants to nudge that camera. And so then I would stop petting him, tell him to sit, and then I'd pet him on his shin, say the word sit, and then I would explain, actually I asked him to sit, and you just missed it. If I start arguing with him about it, then the dog's like, oh, you're on your own page? I can be on my own page too. I'll say recognize or reward, which means the dog just did something that's an opportunity. Come here, buddy. You almost knocked over the camera. Let's keep you over here. We're about to sum this up anyways. The more that we can redirect him into the things that we want him to do, it's healthier across the board. Now, I also went over the importance of not repeating command words, walking through him. We want the dogs to learn when a human's coming. My job is to defer and get out of their way. I'd also like the guardians to... So when I first did that, he barked about 40 times. And now that was 2 or 3 barks and didn't even go to the door. So I want the guardians every once in a while just to knock on the wall or the table, especially when the dog's not looking at you. And this time Hunter did, the last several times Hunter hasn't barked at all. And what we're doing is disassociating or desensitizing him. So when there's a knock, you're going to get extra ones in that time. And we'll go a little ebb and flow back and forth, but you see he's here and he's not going to the door. Because when I knock, nobody comes to the door. And so it's a great process. You can do the same thing with ringing the doorbell. If you want to teach them to move away from the door when the doorbell rings, let me know. I have videos that show how you can use basically classical conditioning to teach the dog to move away from the door when it hears the sound of the doorknob. Now, I also showed the guardian a focus exercise. Let's see if he'll focus.